Hello everyone, let us continue with the topic drug induced toxicity, under which we shall cover nephrotoxicity in the today's lecture. Before going into the actual toxicity and the mechanisms and the examples of toxicity, we shall brief over the renal system and its functions. So the renal system, or the excretory system as it is known as in common terms, because its main function is to remove the waste or excretion of the waste material from the body in the form of urine. Most of the toxicants or most of the metabolites or the waste which is generated, that is mainly removed out through the urine. So this renal system, it consists of several parts. The first one is the kidney, which is a very important organ of excretion. So there is a pair of kidney which is present in the body. It's paired in nature. There are two kidneys, right kidney and the left kidney. So these kidneys form a very important part of the renal system, where actually the urine formation is taking place, and the urine which is formed in the kidneys, it is drained into the urinary bladder, single urinary bladder, via tubular structure known as ureter. So there are two, right ureter and the left ureter. So it drains the urine which is formed in both the kidneys into the single urinary bladder, and from urinary bladder, which acts as a temporary storage for the urine which is formed in the kidneys, because it's a continuous process. So there is a storage organ, where the urine is temporarily stored until the pressure is increased sufficiently to excrete the urine out of the body through a tube-like structure known as urethra. So voiding of urine will take place out of the body through urethra. So these kidneys, which are the main organ where exactly this formation of urine take place, and where several processes are taking place, so several functions are carried out by these kidneys. The rest of the organs, if you can consider, these act as only the pathway for the urine towards the exterior, or a temporary storage. Whereas these are the organs which mainly carry out the function, most of the functions. So these kidneys, these are paired in nature, and these are kidney bean shaped organs. Basically these are located posteriorly, posteriorly in between the peritoneum and the posterior wall of the abdomen. So since this position is posterior to the peritoneum, it's covered from the anterior surface by this peritoneum. Entire organ is not covered by the peritoneum. That's why it is known as retroperitoneal. It is located posterior to the peritoneum. So these organs are known as retroperitoneal organs. Now if you can see the internal structure of the kidney, there are three main anatomical areas into which the kidney is divided into. That is the cortex, the medulla and the papilla. So this outer region is known as the cortex. So from here to here, so this entire region is called as the renal cortex. Just interior to that, the middle portion is known as renal medulla. This is the one, this much. And the innermost area, it is called as the papilla, into which actually the urine which is formed by the nephrons, it is drained actually into this papilla. So this is the region, the renal papilla, this one, where exactly the urine which is formed in the nephrons will be drained into. And this is the pathway for the urine drainage out of the kidneys. Usually it is formed in the nephrons, which is the functional unit of the kidney. Collecting ducts will carry it into the minor calyx. This is the minor calyx. From minor calyx it will go into a little larger area where several minor calyx will join together to form the major calyx. So from several regions of the medulla, okay, it will gather the urine over here, and from major calyx it will move into the renal pelvis. It is still broader area, and renal pelvis, from renal pelvis the urine is drained into the ureters, and then it will go towards the urinary bladder. And this is how the nephron is located in a particular kidney. This is how it is located. We shall see. A part of it is located in the cortex and a part of it is located in the medulla. Okay, we'll see that in the further picture. That is, here it is focusing one particular nephron. Okay, so nephron, which is the functional unit of the kidney. Okay, so the main function of the kidney, that is urine formation, it is carried out by the nephron. Okay, so let us have a close look at the nephron. Okay, so there are several parts into which this nephron is divided into. The first one is the renal corpuscle, okay, into which actually the filtration process will start. The formation of urine, it will start in this particular region. It is made up of two parts, that is glomerular capsule or Bowman's capsule. This is the one, okay, cup-like structure, and inside that there is a network of capillary, that is known as glomerulus, and the blood vessel which enters this glomerulus, it is known as efferent arteriole, and it enters and it forms a network like structure, and one particular arteriole will come out of the Bowman's capsule, that is the efferent arteriole. Okay, so this is how the blood will be supplied to that particular nephron, wherein filtration will take place and it will result in formation of a filtrate at this particular region of the nephron. This is the first region, that is renal corpuscle. Okay, so here filtration of the blood will take place. So except for the blood cells and the proteins which are larger in size, everything else which is dissolved in plasma, it will get filtered out over here. Here the arrows indicates the movement of the filtrate, right? So here the filtrate will be present in this particular glomerular capsule. After that it will enter into the next structural area, that is proximal convoluted tubule. So these are coil-like structure, that's why they are known as convoluted tubule. Proximal because it is near to this starting point of the nephron. That's why it is known as proximal convoluted tubule. So coil-like structure, and entire thing is present in the renal cortex. Okay. So from this, again here the process of reabsorption and all will take place. We'll come to these processes which exactly takes place in the kidneys. Further on it will move to the next part, that is the loop of Henle. If you can see this one, it is a loop, right? And descending limb will be there and ascending limb will be there. So it will pass into the descending limb, make a turn and then move into the ascending limb, which is thick in nature. Further, this particular region is present in the renal medulla. Further, the urine or the process of formation of urine will continue as certain substances will be reabsorbed, certain substances will be secreted over here, and whatever filtrate is there, it will reach the next part, that is distal convoluted tubule. So you can see that it is located away from the glomerulus. Okay, so if you see the area wise, it is very much close. Okay, it's very much close, but if you can see the tubule wise, it is located away. Okay, that's why they are known as distal convoluted tubule. Okay, then from here it will move to the next part, that is collecting ducts, and collecting ducts will ultimately move it into the minor calyx. So ultimately it will result in urine formation. Okay, so this is to do with the nephron. Now coming to the basic processes which are carried out by the nephron. So there are three basic processes which are involved in this particular process of formation of urine, that is glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption and tubular secretion. So we'll just brief on this. Glomerular filtration, it is the first step of urine production, wherein water and most of the solutes which are dissolved in the blood plasma, it is filtered over here. Now though this structure shows straight tube like structure, it's not like that. It's the one which we have shown in the earlier picture. Okay, so it's just a representation. One arteriole will enter, it will form a network like structure over here, and one particular arteriole, efferent arteriole, will come out. Okay, then even there is a blood supply also to the nephron, okay, surrounding the tubules. There is a network of blood capillaries that is known as vasa recta. Okay, these also play a very important role in one of the processes, that is the reabsorption. Okay, so coming to the first process, that is glomerular filtration. So anything which has dissolved in the plasma, excepting for the blood cells and the proteins, it will get filtered out. Okay, it will get filtered out in the glomerular capsule. Okay, so it will result in the filtration of the blood, and that particular fluid which is filtered, it is known as the filtrate. Okay, so this is the first step. Furthermore, it will move into the renal tubules. They are shown in the form of straight tubules, but it's not like that. It's presented in a specific manner which we have seen in the diagram of the nephron. So the next process is tubular reabsorption. So whatever is filtered over here, most of it will get reabsorbed in the tubular region. So as that filtrate moves further, these particular cells which are lining the tubules, they will reabsorb almost 99% of the filtrate. It will get reabsorbed as per the requirement of the body. Whatever water is filtered or whatever ions are filtered, they will be reabsorbed depending upon the requirement of the body. Okay, so they will come back into the blood circulation. First they will go into the interstitium, okay, in this region, and then they will ultimately pass into the peritubular capillaries which are surrounding the tubules. Okay, then next process, the third process is tubular secretion. Okay, so as this filtered fluid, it is moving across the tubules, renal tubules, there are certain substances which are even secreted into the tubules. So either ways the movement can take place. Either the substance can be reabsorbed into the blood circulation, or certain substances may even be secreted into the tubules. Okay, so these are the three basic processes which are taking place in the kidney. Coming to the functions of the kidneys, these help in regulation of the blood ionic composition. So due to the processes which are involved, filtration, reabsorption, secretion, so it will help in regulation of several physiological components of the body, like regulation of blood ionic composition or regulation of blood pH, volume, blood pressure, maintenance of blood osmolarity. Even certain hormones like renin is also synthesized in the kidney, regulation of blood glucose level, and of course the excretion of the waste and foreign substances like your drug or the metabolites. These are excreted mainly via the kidney. So these are some of the important functions that the kidney carry out. Now coming to the actual toxicity to the kidneys. It is basically the kidneys which are affected. In the renal system, as we have seen, the other parts, that is ureters, the urinary bladder or urethra, these are mainly acting only as a pathway for outflow of the urine which is formed by the kidney. So it's the kidneys which are mainly responsible for most of the functions. Okay, so these can be affected by most of the drugs, because kidneys are the main organ which excrete the drug, right? To some certain extent the metabolism may also take place in the kidney. Okay, so the kidneys being a vital organ, it may also be exposed to the toxic effects of certain chemicals or certain metals or certain drugs also. Okay, so coming to the nephrotoxicity. Now the actual definition of the nephrotoxicity is the ability of the drug to cause either structural or functional damage to the kidneys. Okay, now this damage to the kidney, it is usually represented in the form of certain what you can call as the representative features, like say there may be change in the kidney weight, either it may increase or decrease, or there may be increase in the protein content of the urine. Usually it should not be too high, okay, it should be, usually proteins are absent in the urine, okay, but in case of nephrotoxicity there may be appearance of protein in the urine. So this condition is known as proteinuria, appearance of the protein in the urine. Or there may be changes in the volume of urine which is produced by the kidneys. Okay, so there is a specific amount of urine which is produced per day, right, as per your maybe the consumption of the water also, or the water level or the fluid levels of the body, or depending upon the adjustments required by the body. So urine output may be adjusted, but there may be too much of alteration in this volume of urine. Say for example, excessive production of urine may be there, that is known as polyuria, or there may be reduction in the amount of urine which is produced, so that condition is known as oliguria, or there may be total absence of urine production, that is known as anuria. Okay, so these are some of the representative features of the nephrotoxicity. Now let us see what are the different types of damages which may be caused to the kidneys, and what are the different mechanisms by which these damage may be caused, along with the examples. Okay, so the first type of damage which can be caused to the kidney is the acute renal failure, ARF. So this is one of the most common type of damage which is caused to the kidney by the toxicants, and it is characterized by the rapid decline in the glomerular filtration rate, that is the amount of filtrate which is generated per unit time. Okay. So also it is characterized by increase in the concentration of nitrogenous compounds in the blood. Okay. Now there are several mechanisms which may be responsible for the acute renal failure, one of which is the renal vasoconstriction. That is, the blood vessels in the kidneys may be constricted. So as a result of vasoconstriction, the blood flowing through these blood vessels will be reduced. Obviously, as we have seen in the glomerulus, okay, which is the network of the capillary, if the vasoconstriction take place, obviously the amount of the blood which is reaching the glomerulus, it may be reduced. So hypoperfusion will take place of the kidneys. So if the amount of blood reaching the kidneys reduces, obviously the filtration rate also will go down. Okay, so there will be decrease in the filtration, hypofiltration will take place as a result of this. Okay, even if there is damage to the glomerulus, obviously where the actual filtration will take place, obviously it will result in hypofiltration. So this is one of the reason where acute renal failure, that is sudden decrease in the filtration, may take place. Okay, now when the tubular cells are injured, okay, one more sort of injury wherein the tubular cells are damaged, obviously the permeability of the tubules will increase, these tubules. So here, if the tubular cells which are lining these tubules, these are damaged, permeability will be increased. So what will happen, whatever filtrate is generated over here, it will be back leaked into the interstitium, and from here it may even enter into the circulation. So when whatever is filtered out, that amount may get leaked out, so it may result again in reduction of the GFR. So this could be one more reason why the acute renal failure will be presented. Again, certain toxicants may even enhance the adhesion of the tubular cells to each other. So here there may be obstruction to the pathway of the filtrate to be reabsorbed. Okay, so the reabsorption may not take place, thus there may increase in the pressure within the tubules. Okay, so again there will be a resistance towards the movement of the filtrate into the tubules. Okay, so likewise there are several methods by which, or there are several mechanisms by which the acute renal failure may be represented. Okay, now supposing if the kidney is damaged by certain toxicant, or supposing if one of the kidney is lost, what will happen is the second kidney, it will try to increase its GFR by 40 to 60%. So whatever loss is done by loss of one kidney, so that will be made up by another kidney. It's quite common that a person may even survive on one kidney, but this particular loss of one kidney, it will be tried to match by the kidney which is remaining in the body. So there will be a load on one particular kidney which is remaining when one of the kidneys is lost. So what will happen? The other kidney will try to balance it. It will try to increase the GFR. So individual nephrons will try to work at a larger capacities. Okay, so that the individual's excretory process is kept normal. But these compensatory mechanisms will help the person for a short term. Over a long period of time, these compensatory responses may progress into chronic renal failure. That is, over a period of time, whatever nephrons they have increased their capacity, they will also start getting damaged, and it will turn out to be a chronic renal failure. Okay, again, in one more case, there may be increase in the glomerular pressure, okay, which may result into sclerosis, that is replacement of the normal tissues by the connective tissue. So in the glomerulus there may be sclerosis which may be produced, or there may be degeneration of the capillary loops. So obviously this will result in loss of function of the nephron, filtration may not take place appropriately, compensatory mechanisms will take place. So whatever nephrons are normal, they will try to increase their filtration rate, and subsequently chronically they will get damaged. Okay, so whatever surviving nephrons. So again it may eventually lead to chronic renal failure. In addition to damage to the organ as a whole, there are certain substances which may damage specific regions of the nephron also. Like say for example, glomerulus may be damaged, proximal tubules, or maybe loop of Henle, distal tubules or collecting tubules may also get damaged. And out of these, the most common site which is getting affected by the toxicants is the proximal tubule. Okay. Now the mechanisms which may be involved maybe include interactions with the receptors, inhibition of oxidative phosphorylation, disturbances of calcium homeostasis, or adverse effects in the plasma or subcellular membranes. Okay. Now let us see how exactly the damage is taking place to the specific regions of the nephron. Now coming to the damage to the glomeruli. Now let us see how exactly and what are the types of drugs which can damage the glomeruli. Now for example, an antibiotic puromycin, it can increase the permeability of the glomerulus to the proteins such as albumin. So this may be due to the alterations in the electrical charge of glomerular basement membrane. On the other, aminoglycoside antibiotics such as gentamicin or kanamycin, this can decrease the glomerular filtration in addition to the damage to the renal tubules. Apart from that, certain toxicants like gold, mercury or penicillamine, this may induce the membranous glomerular nephritis. That is, the glomerulus basically is getting inflamed in this particular region due to the deposition of antigen antibody conjugates in this particular basement membrane. Then coming to the damage to the proximal tubules. Now this is the site which is the most prone to the damage. The reason for this is because there are a lot of active absorptive and secretory activities which are going on in the proximal tubules as compared to the other regions. This is the region where mostly the reabsorption secretion process will be going on. Okay, so it will be exposed to high concentration of the toxicants. Furthermore, there is even higher levels of cytochrome P450 in this particular region. So it may get exposed to the toxic effects of these toxicants. Okay. Now, certain heavy metals such as mercury, chromium, cadmium and lead, this can alter the functions of the tubules. That is, their reabsorption secretion processes may be affected in such a way that it will be characterized by glycosuria. That is, appearance of the reducing sugars such as galactose, fructose and all in the urine, which are normally absent. Again, it will be it will be represented in the form of amino acid urea, appearance of amino acids in the urine, or polyuria, that is increase in the urine output. Okay, so this is a specific example of toxicity to the proximal tubules. Okay, and after higher doses are getting exposed to this region, it may even result in tubular cell death. Initially the functions will be affected, later on the tubular cell death may take place. Elevated blood urea nitrogen may take place, or later stages anuria, that is total absence of the urine formation, may also take place. Then coming to the mercury basically affects the state portion of the proximal tubules. Actually these are convoluted in nature, but the initial state portion, that may be mainly affected by the mercury. Okay. Then the nephrotoxicity in this particular region, in the proximal tubules, it may be due to the combination of either direct cellular toxicity or ischemia, which is secondary to the vasoconstriction. So either the cells may be damaged directly, or vasoconstriction will be produced, so that the blood supply to these region is decreased, as a result of which ischemia and the damage to that tissues may take place in the surrounding regions. Okay. In addition to that, certain antibiotics which are secreted by the proximal tubules, these can even alter the tubular functions. Various aminoglycoside antibiotics such as streptomycin, neomycin, kanamycin, gentamicin, amphotericin B, all of these are known to affect the proximal tubules by either altering the membrane phospholipid composition. Permeability may be affected. Sodium, potassium, ATPase, which is involved in the transfer of the ions, that may be affected, or adenylyl cyclase activity, or the transport of potassium, calcium and magnesium may also be affected in this particular region by these aminoglycoside antibiotics. Okay, so these are some of the examples wherein the proximal tubules are getting affected. Now there may be damage to other sites also in the kidneys. Okay, say for example tetracycline, it may affect the renal medulla and induce the interstitial nephritis, that is inflammation of the interstitial region may be caused by tetracycline. Or another example is amphotericin B. It can induce renal toxicity in most of the patient, wherein various renal structures may be affected, cortex or medulla may get affected. Certain analgesics including aspirin or phenacetin, it may result into chronic renal failure. Okay. Specifically the toxicity is produced in the medulla region, that is the loop of Henle or vasa recta, interstitial cells, or the collecting tubules may be getting affected due to the analgesics. Now the mechanism involved over here, damage to the medulla, it's mainly due to the vasoconstriction of the vasa recta. Now why this is getting produced vasoconstriction is because of the inhibition of the prostaglandin synthesis. Basically analgesics or NSAIDs, their main mechanism of action is COX inhibition, okay, which will inhibit the synthesis of the prostaglandin. COX is the enzyme involved in the synthesis of prostaglandin, which is inhibited, as a result of which vasodilatory action of prostaglandin is blocked and vasoconstriction is produced. So this is involved in the damage to the medulla region. Again cisplatin, it may again affect many of the parts of the tubule. Cyclosporin, it may result in acute thrombotic microangiopathy. Okay, this particular condition is sudden to occur, wherein mainly the smaller blood vessels, capillaries or arterioles, there may be thrombosis in these microcirculation. Okay, so this particular condition may be precipitated, or chronic nephropathy with interstitial fibrosis may also be precipitated, that is scar formation may take place. Okay. Then certain other types of toxicity include renal carcinogenicity, that is cancerous development in the kidneys may be produced by dimethyl nitrosamine, or tubular blockage which is induced by metabolites of sulfapyridine or glycols like oxalic acid. Apart from this, penicillins and sulfonamides, these also can cause inflammatory interstitial nephritis, that is inflammation of the kidneys may be produced by penicillin or sulfonamide. Now basically here an immunological mechanism may be involved. Okay, so immunological complexes are formed which are actually responsible for the damage of the kidney. So these are all the mechanisms. Then coming to some of the important examples of nephrotoxicants along with their site of injury. Okay. So heavy metals, okay, mostly if you can see they damage the proximal tubules. In most of the cases proximal tubules are affected. Okay. Cadmium, chromium, lead, mercury, all of them affect the glomeruli. The proximal tubules. Gold may affect the glomeruli. Then halogenated hydrocarbons like bromobenzene or carbon tetrachloride, chloroform, they can affect the proximal tubules. Okay. Then coming to the examples of drugs which can affect the kidney. Okay. Antibiotics like aminoglycoside, they affect glomeruli and the proximal tubule. Amphotericin B, glomerular blood vessels and distal tubules are affected. Cephalosporin, this affects the proximal tubules. Okay, then puromycin, of course we have considered this example, glomeruli are affected, and tetracycline affect the interstitial tissues in the medulla. Again analgesics, okay, such as acetaminophen, okay, this affects many parts of the nephron. Anti-neoplastic, anti-cancer drugs is splatin, it affects the pars recta, okay, and other parts of the nephron. And immunosuppressant like cyclosporin, these examples also we have considered, the blood vessels and the interstitial tissues may be affected by these particular drugs. So this is to do with the nephrotoxicity. We have seen the mechanisms of nephrotoxicity along with the examples of various drugs and how exactly it may damage the kidney. So it may be represented in the form of acute renal failure or in the form of chronic renal failure, or several structural damage to the kidneys may also be represented, and in certain cases carcinogenicity may also be produced. Thank you.